Hi, everyone. Happy blessed Sunday. This is Robbin Caroll from Whisper Words of Wisdom. Today, I have with me a special guest named Shannyn Harrison, and she is from Melbourne, Australia. And we have been going back and forth all week trying to get a time frame. So it is actually my Saturday night and her Sunday morning. So she is
Hmm.
actually like about what was the time difference? I think it was 20
That's 16 hours, I think.
16 or 18
Yeah.
hours, something like that ahead. So I'm going to start out with a little prayer, and I'm going to ask that the divine guide us today in our conversation, and that the divine let those who need to hear this, and that the angels and the ancestors and all those that came before us and all those that come after us will hear this message with the intention behind it, which is from the heart frequency, and that frequency vibrate out through the universe to anyone and everyone who needs to hear it. I'm going to say namaste. So,
Namaste.
you and
Mm-hmm.
I met in astrology school, and immediately I was drawn to your energy, like I had told you before we came on. And you have a beautiful, beautiful energy to you. And we have some similarities in our past. And I realized after our conversation, our several conversations, why I was drawn to you. You have such a beautiful heart and a kind and loving soul.
Thank you.
So I wanted to bring you on because you shared with me what you were planning to do in the future. And I was absolutely taken with it. And I support it 1,001%. So anytime you ever need you ever want to come on, you are more than welcome to come on. I love what Shannyn is doing. And I think maybe I'm going to let you explain because you can explain it more better than I can. But Shannyn is working with children, young adults, I should say. I don't want to say children, young adults from 13 to 19. And right now she is in the planning stages. Um, and moving forward with interviews. And what,
Focus groups.
okay, that's it, a focus group.
Mm.
So tell us exactly what it is that you're
Mhm.
searching for and what you're trying to accomplish by doing this. I love what you're doing, by the way.
Um, well, it's such a big, overarching, I guess, message for what I'm trying to do. And breaking that down into little pieces to begin the foundational work has been hard. Because I do see this huge picture and the outcome in my head. So for so long now, I have noticed more and more and more, it's become more and more prevalent in my life and the lives of my friends and their daughters around the way in which women treat each other. We see this play out everywhere. And I have said to many people before, there are no greater assassin of a woman than other women. And it stems such a genetic, like it's ingrained in us. It just seems to be this natural way that we treat each other. It's not something that we have ever really done to keep each other safe. And I'm seeing this play out on many different things in the world at the moment, whether it be business, politics. We're looking at women enabling other women in war, in treating each other in the workplace as though they're not equal, they're not worthy, they're not enough, and that they're throwing everybody under the bus just to save themselves. And I feel this is an energy that is so, it's within our ancestral lines, and it's hard to break out of that because it has become such a natural thing. And it's something that for me is a huge issue around healing this. It needs to be healed. In order for anything to change, we have to try and do things differently. And that's kind of the base of what this is about. And trying to catch that when young women are still young enough to actually do something about it and to embody it and live their lives in that way. It's not something you can tell somebody. You can teach people about this, but where it stems from, it was the behaviors of the women that ingrained it in other women. So we need to do that again. We need to change the behavior of women to model that to other women. This is how we treat each other. This is how we hold space for each other, and this is how we keep each other safe. And I believe we will see a change. I also believe it won't come for a very long time, but I'm a patient woman. So, I will see changes in this. It might take 20 years to see the actual effects and the changes, but it has to start somewhere. And so it needs to start now.
We have been patient for thousands of years. 20
Yeah,
more years is
that's another.
nothing in in space and time in the universe.
Yeah.
We think of time as linear, but when you look at it as a whole, a
Hmm.
thousand years is really nothing in the
No.
universe. It's just a blink of an eye. I
Correct.
love this. As you were talking, I just, I scribble and sometimes I can't read my own writing, so you have to excuse me. But what I love what you're doing is you're taking these focus groups of girls from 13 to 19 years old. You're interviewing them. You're taking the time to speak to them. And you and I had talked, just 10 or 15 minutes prior to recording, just to review, because I told you that I never prepare. When I prepare, it never goes the way,
Yeah.
I think it is anyway. So it's best to just let the natural flow happen.
Hmm.
But you're talking to these girls between 13 and 19 years old, and you're really focusing on them. You're you're not only listening to them, but you're hearing them. And some of
Yeah.
these young girls, their mothers and fathers are hearing them or listening to them, but they're not really hearing what they're saying,
Yeah.
not really translating or transmuting the energy of the child's or the young adult's words, and
Mm.
they kind of blow it off as like maybe two kids playing in the sandbox. But what you're doing is you're intervening at a young age to try to stop or to at least understand where the trauma is coming from so that we know where to begin to heal it
Yeah.
and how to heal it. And if women don't respect women, that's number
Hmm.
one. How do how can we expect? Well, first of all, we need to respect ourselves. Then we want other women to respect us. And then we expect men to respect us.
Yeah.
So women hold like women are the core. I don't care what country you live in. Women,
Mm.
we're the core. We're the core of the family. We're the hub of the wheel, whatever you want to call it, that we are. And some people might not want to acknowledge that, and that's fine. But we take care of the children. We work. If we think about all the hats we wear, I
Hmm.
mean, we are mothers, we are daughters, we are granddaughters, we are wives, we are sisters, uh,
Hmm.
we are coaches, we work jobs, we drive our kids to school, we're the transport company. I mean, if you're the football mom or the soccer mom, we do so many things.
Hmm.
If we were paid for every single job we did, like we can't even list all of the titles on one sheet of paper of everything that we do. And let's not forget the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, and the homework. Oh, and bathing the kids and make sure they've done their homework and reviewing
Hmm.
spelling words and so there's so many things. So I love that you're actually interviewing these young adults and you're actually listening to them and valuing their opinion. And that alone, what that does for a young girl's self-esteem to be seen,
Hmm.
to be heard. Think about when we were young, you know,
Hmm.
you're a good girl, go sit in that corner, be seen, be
I don't
quiet.
think I was ever told I was a good girl. So that's probably where this all starts.
Well, actually, I think my dad told me if I didn't have a mouth, I'd be the perfect child. So basically, that meant you could be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
a kind and loving way, because that's the only way our parents knew how,
Yeah.
that's the way they were
They
taught.
didn't know how to deal with it any other way, especially in public.
Yeah.
So,
They did not have the tools that we have now.
mm,
And I mean, even us, we've only had internet for, I'm gonna say I've had internet for about 35 years,
mhm.
30 years. I don't know, home computers, but we didn't have internet right away. I don't remember when internet
Just
came.
as I was finishing high school, I believe it sort of just started to come through.
Yeah, so we didn't have all these things available to us. So I love that you're doing this with these young girls and trying to prevent the bitchiness. It's kind of like the way I describe astrology. What you're
Mm.
doing is prescriptive,
Yeah.
looking for the prescription. You're trying to prevent the injury before it occurs. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a child wearing knee pads when they ride a bike, right? We're trying to prevent an injury.
Yeah.
So I'd
It's
love,
something I'd say too. It's like I've worked in community services sectors and the mental health space, drug and alcohol, all these sorts of spaces where the people I'm working with are very marginalized. And 20 years in a system that really just keeps people where they are. So it's a reactive system. It's a system that band-aids things. It's a system that constantly tries to build on top of what already doesn't work. And it's, for many years I've said it's a knockdown rebuild situation. It's not a continue to renovate situation. We have to level it and start again because it's not working the way that it's working. It keeps people in exactly the same space that they are in. It, victim shames and blames underneath. They have all these beautiful policies that read fantastic, that, look like they should do the job, but it's very, very rare to find anyone that knows how to explain how they live that policy out on the ground. It's there, they know it, but they cannot tell me what it looks like. How
right.
do you do that? And that's the part where I want to change. I want this to just be what it looks like rather than what it sounds like.
And that's where the power lies in the
Mm.
application.
Yeah,
You can have a head full of knowledge, but if you don't know how to apply it, it's,
yeah,
it's, I don't want to say useless, but if we don't share it and we don't find a way to communicate it, share it in an effective way so that people can learn that there is
yeah,
a band-aid by going to the root cause.
yeah. And I
Because
remember being 13.
symptoms right now that
Mhm.
our mental health system is the same way. We're treating symptoms, but
Correct.
they're not going
Mm.
to the root cause. So
Yeah,
you're going to keep having symptoms if you cannot get to the root. And sometimes that does take years of therapy. So
yeah,
what you're doing is just it just comes from such a pure place in the heart to think that you could go so deep with someone at such a young age. And I think back to being 13 years old. And,
mm,
by the time I was 13 years old, I had suffered two major traumas in my life, possibly three.
mhm,
So, I'm just thinking back real quick my mom did the best she could, but my mom also suffered, she was a severe manic depressive. So my
yeah,
mom had her own issues. So
mhm,
when this is complete, I know you're in the beginning
mhm,
stages, and I told you what I thought before I came on.
yeah,
I do believe that you have found your personal niche. I'm sorry,
yeah.
having Mercury retrograde, I do backwards sometimes. Um, but the way you're doing it, like the power behind it, the energy behind it, the love
It's
behind
not just mine.
it's yeah, you
Mm.
it's like you it's like a rebirth or something for you. There's
Yeah, it
something
is.
in your
Yeah.
energy that's just like electrifying. But then again, I did ask you when you're an Aquarius, so you would be electrifying all the time because Uranus is
Yeah.
your planet. So I just tell people a little bit more about the process, or are you not that far yet?
Look, I have it all in my head. I have the whole thing mapped out in my head. Um, whether or not that's the way it's going to work out is a different thing. Uh, but, I think in order for this to actually make any difference or actually have an impact or actually bring about change, the girls that we deliver this to need to own it. It needs to be theirs. And so, in order for that to happen, they are, for me, the absolute experts and the absolute foundation of everything that this is going to be. It needs to be from them for them. It's not, I remember being that age and I remember being told so many different things, but it wasn't until I felt like I owned it did it become mine. And that is the only way to actually implement the change. They need to own it. It needs to be them and who they are and how they just put their energy out into the world with each other. And it's, teaching the way that we teach now. We tell people, we talk about positive relationships, and this is how you do things, and this is you should be nice to each other, and blah blah blah. Great, but again, it comes back to that. What does that actually look like on the ground? If you can't explain it, you don't know. And so that's why this is so important to speak to the girls directly and do these focus groups. And 100% of them, I tell them what I want to do, and I watch them all physically go, and you can just see the trauma from the minute it comes out of my mouth. And every single girl that I have spoken to has had that response and that reaction. And that to me means, right, we're on the right track. This is it. This is
Right.
the big one.
So are you just doing focus groups in
At
Australia?
the moment.
At
Yeah, at the moment.
looking
Actually,
for
at the moment it's been mainly with a lot of, I've got so many friends that have girls of this age, and other girls that I have, I guess, been randomly put into the space of that age that have also agreed to participate in being part of that group. And for now, it's a conversation. I just want to have a real conversation around what it is that they're experiencing, how that looks for them. What do they believe is behind a lot of that stuff as a surface level? And then not unpacking that too much, because I don't want to have that turn into a bit of a, session around counseling for them. At the moment, it's just trying to look at what the issues are, where they believe it stems from. And then I'm going to go back and look at, once I have all of that data, how do they want that to change? Like, how do they see it changing? What is it that they need to have that will help them make different choices out in the playground or in their lives or interactions with other women?
So what are they telling you right now? Like, what is the difference between like what a 13-year-old is telling you and say like a 17-year-old?
There is some
Level
difference.
of maturity?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more of maturity. There's a little bit more of coming to terms, I guess, for them with who they are, and the way that they see themselves in their world. Um, like there's a slight difference, but it's not huge. And the difference again, moving from that space into just out of school, is again a little bit more maturity, a little bit more, okay, I don't have to deal with this shit every day, but they see it in different ways out in the community. They see it, on a dance floor at a nightclub. They see it when they're out shopping. They see it when they're in their workplace. They see it in customers that come in, or so they still are seeing it and still experiencing it. It just looks different. And that is why I'm thinking of this needs to be done over those first 3 years of high school, and it needs to be done in a way that levels it up each time, because the issues that they face starting out in high school at 13 is different to what they have now experienced at 16, moving into their third and fourth year of school. And it's not, I guess, it's still kind of innocent, let's say, at that 13-year-old stage. But by the time they're 16, some of the things they're dealing with are beyond just women to women. They're dealing with boys who are 16 watching porn, expecting that is the way a woman should behave. The things that they're dealing with, sexualized and social media, it's amped right up by that point. Whereas at 13, it still hasn't quite got there yet, for most anyway. Some, yes, but not all. So what do we deliver at 13 to try and bring that down by the time they're 16? And then what do we deliver now at 16 that tries to, I guess, reverse some of that, or bring some change around that they can own at that age? So it may even transition and look different over the years as it develops.
Right. There are so many different steps involved in this and phases
Yeah.
as far as the age groups, because as they get older, children are actually are young adults. I don't mean to keep
Hmm.
children, but to me,
Yeah.
they're, that, yeah, 13 years old is still a baby. We got,
I still think 21 is a child now
yeah,
that I'm much older than 21.
but there's, as they get older, there's not only the peer pressure just from the other girls, now you add in the peer pressure from the boys.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have not all parents, but some parents of the boys will be boys mentality.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, your son is out of line with someone's
Yeah.
daughter. Okay. I have a son and a daughter. Okay.
Same. Yes.
I
A son
feel
and a
like
daughter.
I feel like there are guidelines. I always tell my kids, you did not come with a manual. I did the best I could. but there are eh, rules, lessons, whatever. You don't want to put anybody in a box. Okay. So I'm not really quite sure what word to
You
use, but
want to keep them both safe in their respective ways.
yeah, there is appropriate and inappropriate behavior. And a boy, just like a man, shouldn't expect anything from a girl, just like a man shouldn't expect anything from a woman. There has to be a mutual respect, a mutual understanding, a conversation, there's something, and it does start, young. I mean, I have known 13-year-olds that have had babies. I've had
Yeah.
friends that have had 13-year-old, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, but I support whatever your decision is,
Yeah.
you know. But at the same time, it's difficult, and they have so much life ahead of them, and
Hmm.
shouldn't feel the pressure to do something that they're not. Even their bodies aren't physically ready, and they're not mentally
Yeah.
mature enough to handle.
Yeah. And also, you're looking at someone at that age who is so desperately needing to be loved, and a baby will do that for them.
It's so hard just being
Really?
a teenager. I remember teenage
Yeah.
years, just trying to find the space where you fit in,
Hmm. And at
and
16, from 13 too, you kind of, I guess you've almost resigned yourself to the fact that that's the box you're in. So how do you play that part in the safest, best kind of possible way that you can to make it through, to get out of here and just get on with your life? And I've seen a lot of girls that sort of tried, well, they've been pigeonholed or put into this way of, this is sort of who they are. And for them to actually try and get out of that is almost impossible in that environment. So you can sort of just see them settle into it a bit. It might change if they change schools or, as they get older, but they kind of settle into that, and only because it's what everybody else thinks. So because it's what everybody else thinks, and it's because it's what everybody else believes, whether you try to change it or not, it's not going to obviously change that collective thought about you. So it's how do you get through that, and then make that different as you leave school. So it's I've experienced that. I was not the most well behaved child, surprisingly, and got myself into a lot of trouble, which also meant that I moved schools a number of times. Um, and starting at a brand new school as a 16-year-old, you would begin, you knew no one, but rumors would fly around. And that's how you start your first week at a new school, is all of a sudden people are talking about why you're at a new school who have never met you. And so it doesn't matter who you are and what you've done, that's already out there. And that's something that you have to sort of fight against to change, and deal with and work out where you are in your new social settings and actually trying to learn and finish and all those sorts of things. And it's something that is a level of extra shit we don't need.
Mhm.
And I believe, it's because we have that in us. We just do that to each other.
it's
We're a threat.
it's a lot of pressure as an adult.
Mm,
I
yeah.
I can't even imagine going through it as a child again. I mean, I think each generation has their wound and their pressures and their bullies, and
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the bullies in school, and I mean, I have to say I was pretty lucky in school, but there's always somebody that doesn't like you. You're either too fat, too skinny, too pretty, not pretty enough. You're
Too
not the,
loud.
you're not the cheerleader dating the football player.
Hmm.
You're not the prom queen. You are the prom queen. It's so much, it seems so important at the time, but when you look back now, it's like, I don't want to say
Yeah.
you laugh at it, but it's kind of like, wow, like that was so,
So much energy put into something so insignificant in the
yeah.
end.
And the mothers, these mothers that like push their
Mhm.
children into these beauty pageants and stuff. Stop. What are you doing to your child? If your
Yeah.
child wants to, fine. If they don't, leave them alone. Not everybody's supposed to be Miss America or Miss
Yep.
Australia or whatever. Not every girl wants that. Some girl just wants to be an astronaut or
Mm,
engineer or a marine biologist, like those things.
absolutely.
I wanted to be an astronaut. Oh, you can't be an astronaut. You're a girl. Well,
Yeah.
now we have women astronauts. I should have fought a little bit harder, I guess, back in the day. but I really hated math and I'm not good with physics. So there we go. I probably
Well,
wouldn't
that may have been a small problem for that.
have. I'm a numerologist, but I suck
You
at,
are where you are meant to be, Rowan, that's for sure.
but there's so much pressure on everyone, and we don't need to be putting more on our children because they, the the peer pressure alone is, along with the schoolwork and the after school activities that they may or may not even want to be involved in. It might be
Mhm.
pressure from the parent to excel for a scholarship,
Yeah.
college scholarship. There's so many different pressures, and to
And
be
they're
able,
just the ones we see.
yeah, and to be able to get them at an age where you can and actually build a trust with them, because
Yeah.
most 13-year-olds don't trust an adult.
No.
You
And, for good reason a lot of the time,
well,
because
no,
they aren't actually listened to and taken seriously.
right, or they've trusted an adult that has caused them some
Yeah.
kind of trauma in their past.
Yeah.
So, it used to be a time you went to your teacher. Now, in today's world, you know,
Yeah, that's right. And I, acknowledging that, having worked in that space for such a long time, and trying my hardest, although probably failing miserably on some days, to not be that kind of parent as well. I didn't have the kind of parent that I felt comfortable in talking to because there was that judgment, or there was that aspect of what would the neighbours say, or what would such and such think, or I don't know, I can't deal with that. It's too hard basket. And I don't want to be that parent. I want to be the parent that whatever basket comes, it comes. And we'll deal with whatever it is. And I will have your back and I will listen to you and I will foster what you want to be in who you are. Because that's the way of having happy kids that don't have to necessarily deal with as much shadow work as we have. I'm sure I will do things to them that they will be traumatized by. Absolutely. Because, I'm trying to look at it from my perspective, and it's still not their perspective. So there will be things, but I'm trying to reduce what those things are and how bad they are.
it's funny, but it's not funny
Mm,
because we've been through it, and
yeah,
we know, and we want to, try to help the future generations to
yeah,
move through with more grace and ease than we did. And we can't sit here and promise that it's always going to be easy, but I think to be able to gain the trust of a teenager, that alone is an achievement in itself. And
yeah,
as far as your parenting skills, this would be my comment. If you don't leave your child with at least one trauma, you are not a good mother.
yeah. You didn't do it right. That's right.
Because we only do the best we can. Like I
Yeah,
said, they didn't come with instructions. I wish they had, then I could have been the perfect mother too. And isn't that out there too, that they see children comparing, or these young adults looking at somebody else's mom thinking, oh, I wish my mom was like that.
yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
not,
And I remember
and
doing that
then
when I
there's
was young.
competition between the parents, where the parents,
Mm,
then they go home and the young adult is hearing the mother talk about the other person's,
yeah,
the other young adult's mother. So they're watching the generation ahead of
yeah,
them beat the hell out of each other, whether,
yeah.
verbally, and the gossip, and, that's painful. That's hurtful. It's,
I've even had those conversations with my 10-year-old daughter around things like that because she always says to me, "You're not like other mums." She knows it. And
a good
I've
thing.
had, and that's good. Yes, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. But it's and she sort of will say things about other people's mums. I said, but that's their experience. So you have to understand that while it doesn't look the same, it's because of people's experiences. So I want her to have that basic understanding of why things are different and that she has a choice. She actually has a choice on how to be. And there's no greater power than knowing that you have a choice and that if you make the wrong one, you can choose again. And I want her to know that. And I want her to be able to embody that. And the more people that realize they actually have a choice, the better off we are. So it's not believing you have a choice is the problem.
And that's a beautiful thing for the child to know, that they have a support system, that
No matter what.
you're not saying, listen, I support you going out and mass murdering people. You're saying, if you make a mistake, I'm here, but
Mm,
you still have to go the consequences of the action still has to come into play.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not giving them permission to be criminals, but at the same time, you're allowing them to make choices and to grow and expand and to learn from their own choices.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
to trust that they have that opportunity to choose again. I mean, look, I say this as a white woman in Australia who's free and has, you know, many choices available to her. So I do understand that this is not something that everybody has that opportunity for. But
right.
while we have that here, and while we can do that, it is something that I want my kids to know they actually have the ability to do, and be grateful for the fact that you do have a choice and that you know it. And that's, you know, that is such a powerful thing. So use it because you have that ability to use it, and that's how you change things.
Absolutely. I love that.
Mm.
Love that you are listening to these young women, that
Well,
you're
they're the
giving them
experts.
a voice, that you're acknowledging them, because to be seen and to be heard at an early age is so
Yeah.
important.
And
That
I
is
remember not
carry
being
our
that.
whole lives. You know, I have
Hmm.
seen 50-year-old women in therapy say, I never felt seen or heard my entire life.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember at 13 being that girl. And so I remember what that feels like. I remember what that does. And I remember the things that you do in order to be seen and heard. And not all of it is a positive thing. So how do we do that without them having to go to such lengths? Yeah, and I think that that's where the change
Now,
will
but
be.
you're going to find out for us.
Absolutely. And I'm prepared for all the bits that say, you know, this is a feminist movement and that you can't do this, and you know, this is not how we do things, and it's to have it pushed down because it's going to go completely against what's already in play. And you know, people don't like change when it's such a knock it on its head kind of turnaround change. So
Well, I'm not limited in what will come out of my mouth. And I want you to know you are free to say anything here that doesn't
yeah,
jeopardize you and your country. But
yeah.
I will say this. Um, I'm not a man hater. This is,
Me either.
this is
No.
not a feminist movement. This
Hmm.
is something to help our
This is feminine. It's not feminist.
exactly.
Yeah.
These what you are doing is you are taking young adults, young female adults, and you are helping them find the divine feminine in them at a young age to help them learn to ex- accept themselves
Hmm.
and embody not only who they are, but who they can be and who they are
Yeah.
in the process of becoming,
And raise their standards of themselves and each other.
and to be kind and loving human beings moving
Yeah.
forward.
For me, that's the basic thing. You know, it's not something that people know how to do very well, but it's the basic thing. And it needs to come back to that basic level now.
It is, I the other day I was walking the dogs, and there's an elderly man that lives in across the street. He's well into his 90s. I actually think he actually has maybe some dementia
Hmm.
and can barely walk. And he was taking out his trash. I saw him. I walked over to him, and I said, is that your trash? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I'll take it over, put it in the dumpster for you. He got so upset and angry with me. And he's like, I got it. I got it. I don't need your help. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
calm down, calm down. There's a lot to be said for mental health. I don't think this man has any family. I've never seen anyone come visit him or anything.
Hmm.
You know, we need to be kind to each other. And we need to also understand that when someone behaves that way, this man is well into his 90s. Well,
Yeah.
honestly, he probably should not be living alone.
Mm.
You know, that comes from a place of lack of understanding, lack of education.
Hmm.
And, somebody else might sit here and say he's a grumpy, lonely old man or whatever. And he is. He is. He's somewhat miserable. But think about being all alone. We don't know what his childhood was. What was the world like almost 100 years ago? We know what it's been like for us. And all of this is what we're trying to change.
Yeah.
And that, that Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to be a jolt. And it's going to be the
Mm.
first, like, little, like, I could see you like waking up all the I want to say all the women in your country, but I feel like, the men are going to be, you're right, probably go
Yeah.
to the feminist thing because they don't want to lose control. But
I know
yeah,
what the media is like in this country, and that would be one of the questions you'd be asked. You
yeah,
know, is this about, it, making women, feel better than men, or is this a feminist thing, or is this something that is against men? And it's actually none of those things. It is just women for women, and that's it. And that's okay for it to be that way without it having to have anything to do with this other masculine energy. With well, however, with the underlying hope that in changing that feminine energy, a natural progression from that is the masculine energy changes as well. But that's a whole other issue that I'm not touching as a woman, and it's not something that.
I
But I
agree.
think that we need to have that divine feminine for that divine masculine to rise up and take charge as well, and give space for that to happen.
Well, you know what? I want to say bless you for what you're doing because the hormones alone involved in that.
Yep.
and and to have that forward way of thinking
Mm.
and knowing what you've gone through in your own life and to want to help your children in a new and different way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, God, I wish I had a mom like you because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have a mom like I did, and I had
Yeah.
my
Same. Yeah.
mom was a big part of my life as well.
Yeah.
So I think
But
that
learning it the hard way, I think, Robin, and
yeah,
why do my kids have to learn the hard way? Why can't they just learn the easy way? Why does it have to be a hard thing for them to learn?
it doesn't, I don't even know what I look, I mean, hindsight is 2020, like you said earlier. But I look back and I think to myself, when my kids were younger, I could have done that differently. But at
Hmm.
the time, in that moment, I
Yeah.
truly did the best what I thought was the best thing, at the time. And
Yeah.
I tried not to make the mistakes that I felt my parents made. My
Yeah.
parents are both gone now. Doesn't mean that we didn't love our parents. It just means that we want to do better. And each generation wants to make it easier for their children. But there are
Yeah.
still some trials that are part of their journey that they need to
Absolutely. There's rites of
have
passage.
exactly they
Yeah.
need to have some experiences in their life to learn from because it is their
Absolutely.
individual
But
journey.
for me, I feel like there are things that it doesn't need to be. Those experiences don't
Yeah,
need to be certain things. There
ex-
are rites of passage of learning how to develop and become an adult and finding your place in the world. But there are things that doesn't need to be, that just add those layers of extra crap onto it, that where you find yourselves in your 40s going, okay, so this is what I need to work on. If we can reduce those, this is what I need to work on. Imagine how fantastic our world could be if people are starting earlier with less wounds, and bringing about these wonderful things to fruition.
and who do children, young adults really have to go to? They don't trust most adults.
No.
Lots of times, like I said earlier, the adults that they taught that they did trust, or we were taught, you go to your minister, your priest, your pastor.
Hmm. And that is the last thing we teach our kids.
Well, what? Yeah,
So
that is
I don't even let mine play in the front yard. So
the last thing we teach our kids, and let's,
yeah.
this thing. Or the teachers, which we've also had cases here where now we have teachers
Mm.
and having sex with
Australia is
students.
absolutely no different. Yeah.
It's the whole world. It's not, sometimes I don't know why there are lines on a map,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes I really don't understand it because it just seems it's everywhere and it need not be. I don't even like to have these conversations, but it's nothing that no one doesn't already know.
Yeah.
And just to provide the environment a place to speak, be heard, have someone listen,
Hmm.
and
And feel valued in
care,
doing that.
care and value. Yeah, absolutely. Like teach them their self-value and show them that they are worthy of love.
Mm,
Because that's a big part of it too, that unworthiness, you know?
yeah. I think we've seen the generational shifts. We've gone from, the generation where everything was put under the rug. Nothing was discussed. Nothing was looked at. Everything was just the way it is. You got on with it, deal with it, the end. And, then we
I'm still
saw a
waiting
whole
for my
generation of parents that parented that way, and that people were not, the next generation maybe took it a different way. And then it became more about me, myself, and I. And I think we are starting to move out of that me, myself, and I, because we've learned the lessons of how to be like that, and we needed to, and taking that me, myself, and I, and making it we and us, and how we can do this together. Because we now know we can't do this by ourselves. There's always been that thing around having community, but we needed to learn how to do those things for ourselves. I guess have that. I guess kind of a selfish way of looking at things, where everything was just about how do I make myself happier? How do I do this for myself? But we needed to have that understanding because it was not in the generations prior to us. So now that we have both of those, we need to now bring it together and make it a collective, because individual energies on this planet, we have seen what they have done in the last, even 5 years alone. So it's time now to look at how we do this as a collective and as one massive energy, rather than just individual energies that are made powerful by other individual energies that have interest in the wrong places. So now it just needs to be around people and how we work as community and support each other as community to keep this planet together.
I
And I
agree.
think that's a huge thing.
Community is very, very important.
Yeah,
I mean, if we can't depend on each other, if we can't trust each other, if we can't find a way to communicate and work
yeah.
and live together on this planet peacefully,
Hmm. We won't have it left. So
then what are we leaving our children? What legacy are we leaving our children, our grandchildren, our great,
absolutely.
you
And
know?
maybe, and I think that possibly I have been so blessed in having had community around my entire life. So as we sort of spoke about before, we have this term of family, where we have family that are actually friends. They're not, they're our chosen family. They're not the family that we were born into a bloodline with.
Right.
And I've always grown up with family, whether it was family as a young child that we had, that we spent all our holidays with, we did everything with, parents, hung out all the time together. And I have brought that into my life now as well for myself and my kids. I've got the most beautiful network of women that is a rare thing to find. And for some reason or another, I have found a whole group of them, and we embody what I'm trying to do, and we're trying to teach our daughters how this, what this looks like. And it is a family, and we need to just band together as community, as women, and my god, how powerful we'll be. So, and I think that scares a lot of people, how powerful it can be when women get together and bring their energies as one rather than competing. you know we empower each other and not compete with each other. My god, look out.
Isn't it amazing how you can have one shy person that kind of like sits in the corner or whatever, and you
Mhm.
get a group of women together and you grab her and you pull her in and she just
Oh, yeah,
blossoms right in front of you. Like she
we
will
have some of those.
represent like the center of that, like the brightest light in the room kind of thing. And I love when that happens.
Yeah, she just
And
needed the space to let it shine.
and I hope that the people watching this, I hope that there's a man out there with a son and a daughter
Mm.
that will step up and do the same thing
Yeah.
for the young male adults that need
No, I
they
actually know
options
dads
as
that are.
well, and to
Yeah,
teach them how to respect themselves and young
yeah,
girls, and that there's a difference between making love and raping a woman, you
yeah.
know, and
And there's a difference between what you see, filmed in porn, as opposed to what is acceptable and, is okay for in real life.
exactly, exactly. There is so much. Let me put it to you this way.
Mm.
I have so much respect for parents today. I am so glad my kids are grown. If I had little small children, school age children, teenagers, maybe I would leave in school. But if I had younger children, I would pull them out and I would homeschool them and I would do whatever I had to do to support them
I would if I
financially.
wanted to be an at-home mum, but I can't.
Yeah,
I
I
love my children,
listen.
and but being at home with them all the time through COVID, yeah, I resigned from the teacher's job because I couldn't do it. So I had children that didn't behave and didn't listen to their teacher. I can tell you now. So,
Well, they listen to their teacher. They just save all the crap for you. That's how it
but I
works.
was their teacher. We homeschooled for nearly 2.5 years, on and off. So yeah,
Same way here during COVID.
yeah,
COVID,
yeah,
COVID brought a lot of things to light for a lot of,
didn't it?
yeah,
Hmm.
like one of those blessings that I'm most glad my kids were grown.
Yeah, one of those things where I went, oh my God, you know what? We're going to miss a whole year of school. You guys will be fine. You're resilient. You'll make it up. You bounce back. We'll be
Yeah.
fine. So,
Yeah, and well, here, like in our country, a lot of the kids got lazy. They didn't want to go back to school. Oh, we're,
yeah.
we're we're traumatized from not being at school. Wait a minute. You're traumatized from not being in school? Okay,
But you
COVID.
don't want to
I'm
go
not
back.
going to say that it wasn't, that there
Mm,
weren't some children traumatized.
yeah.
I mean, it was,
Oh, look, I am seeing
there was
effects now. Yeah.
fear.
Hmm.
All the countries did it,
Yeah.
the feed fear, and all of that. But if you're sitting on your iPhone, your iPad, or your computer all day long, I don't think you're traumatized playing that game where that's blowing up people and, you know,
Yeah. But you are traumatized in having to face somebody for in real life, in real person, in real emotion, in real response. I had my daughter who was very social, didn't cope at all with homeschool, didn't cope with not seeing anybody. Whereas my son,
close to
15, he excelled. He excelled so much. The changes in him academically were amazing, and he excelled at not, he doesn't do well with other people. And not having that as part of the pressure of his day to day, he actually did really well in homeschool. And he has a better social interaction when he's not having to deal with the face to face, all those social cues and everything else. Whereas my daughter just needs it. She thrives off other people's energy as well. It helps her energy. So having none of that at home was awful for her.
I think that is, and I don't want to put labels on children, but my son also was more to himself. I think that women need, even at a young age, we need that interaction with other women. I always say that women's friendships and men's friendships are different. They're so
Yes, they are.
different, you know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes men don't get that women just need to be with their girlfriends, you
And
know.
talk shit. So,
It's a totally different dynamic. But
yeah.
I hope a man steps forward and starts doing some of this work because,
Yeah.
I have one of each like you, and we want
Mhm.
them to be healthy adults with healthy habits. We want them to be kind and loving and
Yeah.
gentle. We want them to feel safe and secure. And we don't want them to be bullied, and we don't want them bullying
Mhm.
anyone else. We don't want to be that parent either.
No, exactly. And I don't want them to have to think about a whole range of things that are not important just to step outside into the world. You
Or
know,
to
I-
feel like they have to do something to be accepted when
yeah,
they're perfectly whole the way they are,
yeah,
I always say you're holy, WHOLEY, no matter what anyone
yeah,
else tells you. You are
yeah,
complete and whole the way you are. When you look
yeah,
at the mirror and you see that reflection, if it's not smiling back, only you can change it, you know?
correct. Yeah.
Um,
It's so much now for them. It comes down to the feedback they're getting from other people, their peers in their age group, and the expectations are completely unrealistic and fake. So it's that real struggle between how do we teach them how unrealistic and fake that is when it's so much in their face and so much a part of their world. Like it's almost two completely conflicting ideas for them. And so that's where we need to start to change what it is they're seeing and what it is they're doing with each other. So
I think what you're doing is wonderful, and I would say that I hope to have you back again to hear what your progress is. And
yeah,
I would like some feedback from the audience because I'm wondering if there are mothers in other countries that would like to network with you
Yeah. So I really actually thought it'd be a great idea to have mothers be a
So
part of this.
yeah, this is a worldwide problem. This isn't
Yeah.
a one country thing. This is,
Yeah.
women are women no matter where you are in the world. And all
Yeah.
young girls are going through similar things no matter what country they're. Obviously, like you said, we're in countries where we have rights that are protected.
There are things that we're not dealing with on top of everything else.
Right. I mean, there are countries that the women are severely suppressed, oppressed,
Mm.
you know, things are
Yeah.
not, they can't, they wouldn't even be allowed to have this conversation. They'd be murdered.
Yeah.
Um, they probably would be murdered to
Well,
have
I
the
mean, this is where it stemmed from. We were murdered for having this conversation as a collective all those years ago. This is where the wounds come from
exactly.
because is not it. Yeah, it shows that there is maybe some magic and power in the world, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
So
And a lot of
this is where it
insecurity on
started.
either side.
Yeah.
So let's not carry it forward. But well, interested in networking? Do you have enough girls in your focus group? Are you looking for a girl?
No, I don't think I do. And look, we're at the end of our school year here in Australia. So where kids are about to finish school this week, and then go on our equivalent of a summer break. So they're not back at school until the end of January, start of Feb. And so I'm collecting for, let's say, all the girls in that age group that I know personally, and that I'm being sort of introduced to. Next year, I want to take that focus group into different schools because I also want to look at the demographics of girls that we have too. So is there a massive difference in the issues being faced with girls that go to maybe a private school or a school that has a higher percentage of multicultural students or a school that's a little bit maybe considered lower socioeconomic? Like, are the issues that they're facing exactly the same or do they look different with the different types of things? Because as I said, unless I own this, it's not going to work. But how do we get it so that all girls or the most majority of girls can own this? What is that one thing or those things that are exactly the same all the way through, no matter where you're from or who you are? And they're the things that we need to concentrate on because then that will be how we get this to get across a mass group of people rather than it just only work in this area and they're not the other. So, I need to find those things that are the same across the board.
You piqued my interest with something that you just said. And I'm wondering, do you have private schools that are like all girl, all boy private schools?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm wondering how the focus groups, if the outcome is the same in the all
Mm.
girl school as in the boy girl school,
Yeah. Yep.
because in the all girl school, the pressure is different. The
Yeah.
boys
The dynamic is different.
the boys aren't there, and that
Mhm.
changes the whole dynamic by that masculine
Correct. Yeah.
energy not being there. So the only
So
male
what are those
be
issues
there
that
would be
are there when you take that out? What are we left with? Because it still happens. So what are we
exactly.
left with when you take that male energy out of their day to day at school? And those are the things that I think we're going to find will be our correlation right across the board.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would be definitely interested in hearing the outcome of that. So
Yeah.
how can people get a hold of you if they would like to contact you?
Um. Oh, I hadn't even gotten that far, Robin. This.
Oh, on Facebook, through
Yeah,
Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Facebook. It's just me, Shannyn Harrison, in all my glory.
It's not
And I'm,
you.
on
It's
LinkedIn as
wonderful,
well.
brilliant you for what you're doing.
You.
And anyone that needs to get in touch with Shannyn, you can reach out to me and I will direct you to her because she is in the beginning phases of this. But I think what you're doing is wonderful and beautiful and healing and will save so many people so many years of their life of
Yeah,
healing.
let's gain some of that back and just get on with the business of living and making this planet the way it should be.
And that's living in joy. We
Mm.
are we are in Sag season. So,
Yes.
Shannon, thank you so much. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, me too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for getting up on a Sunday morning, dealing with your kids, popping
I've
on.
had my daughter sitting next to me most of the time. She's been in and out of the room all the time.
Oh,
So you may
she
have seen little heads popping up here and
can pop in and say hi. I don't care.
she's gone now. But yeah, she has been in and out throughout the whole session. So yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't see her.
But
Anyway,
that would be, she made it that way, don't worry. She doesn't like to be seen on here.
we'll
She
have
just
to do
likes to be
something.
next to me.
Have to do something about that. Well, that's,
Yeah.
she's gonna be a mini me. She's gonna be like
Oh,
you.
she is. She's a, as I call her, the boss. She's a ball of sass. So she is a mini me. So yeah.
Well, thank you, and I wish you well with your work. You know you have my support if you need anything.
Thank you.
I am here to support you. And again, if anyone wants to reach Shannyn, if you can't find her on Facebook, reach out to me. I'll help you connect. I think this is
Yeah.
something that
I would love stories from everywhere. I would love to hear what the experiences are, as I
I
talk
would
to
love for
people.
you to get some other people from some other countries. I mean, we could definitely could use that in the United States,
I
Canada.
think this is everywhere. Yeah.
Some of them get because usually um the larger companies will companies, the larger, my God, my Capricorn just came out. Um, the larger countries
Mm-hmm.
usually
Isn't it
are
same
role
thing? Yeah.
models for the rest of the world,
Yeah.
whether it be
Should. Yeah.
politically or like we all look to Paris for fashion, right? We
Yeah.
all go to Canada to ski. We all go
Yeah.
to the islands to get warm, except for you, because I am so envious that it is summer in Australia.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a
Finally.
winter. I don't like the cold, so I'm a little bit jealous, but good jealous, not,
Yeah.
but
Can live vicariously through me for the summer. So when we catch up on
and
our Zooms.
I have a friend in New Zealand as well.
Hmm.
She sends me pictures of the beach. I'm like, when I see you, I'm gonna smack you.
Well, I'll send photos. We're going camping after Christmas at the lake, so I'll send photos of the sun and fishing and camping and all that sort of stuff. So
Ah, I would love
yeah,
it. Send them, send them, send them. Post them all over my page. Bring me some
yeah.
sunshine. Anyway, thank you. Loads of love
Thank
to
you.
you. I want
Yes,
to
and
everyone who's watched today and to please share this with your family and friends and anyone that you know in your community that may need this, anyone that
hmm
has children, and reach out to Shannyn because what she's doing is really it's changing the world. It's changing the world for our children.
well, one person at a time. I need to rein that in a little bit and be realistic. So
You do, but you don't, because I know you already have the vision, and I know
I
you
do.
have the
Yeah.
visionary ability, and what you're doing is you're being an example for every single woman in the world that has a daughter.
Yeah. You have to show it by living it and behaving that way, and just it being who you are in order for it to make any difference.
You have to
So,
walk your
walk the
talk.
walk. That's it.
Your children learn their behavior from you.
Correct. Yep. And let's stop teaching them how not to be and start teaching them how to be.
Stop
Mm.
teaching hate, start teaching love and respect and,
Yeah,
just honoring each other as a human being.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Sharon.
the more stories I get from girls of that age, the more information we have, the more the more we can put into this that gives them the space to have that voice and be heard. So definitely, I'd love more stories.
Well, you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful vision that you were sharing. And I hope that this just spreads across the globe one person
Hmm.
at a time.
Yeah.
It all
Let's make
begins,
this an epidemic.
it all begins out. Yeah, there you go. This is the
Hmm.
kind of pandemic that we need, the kind that
That's
helps
right.
our
Yeah,
children, not
that's
rip
right.
them apart.
Yeah.
Need to come together. We need to start at home. We need to start in communities. I love that you're going into the schools. You're
Mm.
just you're on fire. You are on
Thank
fire
you.
in a good way. You're a bright light. Thank you for
Thank
doing this for the children of the world.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not done yet, so we're
Oh, it's done. You just haven't. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah.
already.
It's come out in the physical now. It's done in the energetic world. I know that.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
love you. And
Yeah, I love too.
for everyone out there, this will be the last podcast before Christmas. So I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, a happy new year.
Yeah.
Be blessed, be well, and remember to breathe through the holidays.
Mhm.
Remember that Mars is in Sagittarius during Christmas and Mercury is retrograde. So remember to be mindful of your words. Just remember to breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah.
You're going to make it through the day. It's only 5 or 6 hours with Uncle Joe and his politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's my ongoing joke because I don't do politics. And Annie Mae with her aches and pains and her arthritis. Just give
Yeah,
her.
and the one that drinks the secret sherry in the bathroom all day. So,
I've never heard that one. That's a good one though. There's always one, isn't there?
yes, there
So
is.
Sagittarius season with, let's see, with Mars and Mercury retrograde. It's basically foot and mouth. So just put the pie in your mouth. Don't worry about the extra weight. You can walk it off after New Year's. Have a drink, relax. Remember to revisit, review, revise. Don't do contracts or anything that's of utmost importance, and stay healthy. Breathe.
Yeah, great.
Lots of love. Namaste to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
Have a
the time.
beautiful day, honey. And I'll
Yes,
talk to you tomorrow because I'm going to bed.
yes. Well, yep. We're off to start our afternoon of activities. So,
Have a great
yeah.
day. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.